Okay. Dana?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just making sure you can hear me. Uh, hey, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Autism and Us. Uh, we have an author with us. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm excited to have this conversation. My name is Dana Young-Askew. I'm here in Virginia Beach, Virginia. My husband and I have 5 kids. We have an 11-year-old son. We have 7-year-old boy-girl twins and 6-year-old boy-girl twins. And our youngest son, Drayden, is autistic. He was diagnosed around 25 months. He's about to be 7 now. So we have been on this journey of learning and growing and at this point advocating. During the quarantine, the COVID time, I was sent home like a lot of people to work from home and had a lot of downtime. And my counselor just suggested that I focus on spending the downtime that I had on things that I wanted to do, but I've just never had the time to do. And writing a book was one. And so that's how my book, Come Meet Drayden, came about. It is a book, a children's book, told from the perspective of siblings about their brother Drayden, who's autistic. So it talks about some of the day-to-day behavior, some things you may see him doing, saying, and really what their experience is like having a sibling that is autistic.
Okay. So thank you for joining us this evening. I think we can all relate. On We're all here for a reason. We're all in Autism and Us because we have a loved one. Most of us are parents of a loved one, a child that's on the spectrum, um, diagnosed with autism. So we all have a lot in common, and we're all very anxious to get to know each other, right? And you have this
Yeah.
book, and yeah, it's nice to see other parents who are able to go out and achieve these things, and to be able to teach the community and show the community, uh, show them what we live and what we go through, what our families live with. So
Yeah.
this is exciting and this is nice. So first off, I'm Linda with Autism and Us. I'm one of the admins here. So just to let everybody know, well, everybody's welcome. And we have Let's Talk Autism on Sundays, but we have Focus Lives often. So we like to do this so we can have special subjects that we can cover. And as I said, we have a special author tonight, so it's a special treat. So if you guys want to come in, ask questions, uh, feel free to do so. And anything you'd like to share specifically, Dana, that I don't bring out, feel free to do so. And
Okay.
sure. So so you said, so you talked about you wrote the book from his siblings' perspective, correct?
Yeah, yes. So the book is titled Come Meet Drayden, and it's really so what happened was it was going to be a self-help book, like for other parents, things to look for, what our experience has been. And I came to like a writer's block where I didn't know what to say. I was like, I need help. And so I asked my kids, I'm like, what would you think that some other moms and dads would need to know if they had someone like Drayden? And they just came out with so many good tips, right? Like there were so many, they were spot on. And it quickly changed from the idea of like being told from my perspective what I feel like they would need and being told from, their perspective as a sibling to give them voice. And also I thought it was beautiful that it is a child's perspective, right? It gives a kid's insight of what autism is. I think sometimes when we look at autism, we see it on such like this big level, and I think it helps for it to be taken down to where other kids can, take it in and digest it, where it's not so big and such an abstract idea. And so it really just talk about different experiences, different things that they've gone through with having a sibling with autism, certain things that they've been through, certain things that Drayden does that's unique to just Drayden, and how he totally fits in with them. There's a quote that always says, if you want to know how to treat a sibling or a child with autism, look at how their siblings treat them, right? Because I think siblings are so good at holding them equal parts accountable and also knowing when to extend that grace, right? Like it doesn't, those lines, for some reason, they just know how to perfectly balance it all out, and it just works out. So yeah, that's a little bit about our book and why it's told from that children's perspective. And I just also thought siblings too are affected by autism in the household as well, and I don't really think they always get the space or the platform they need to talk about their experience or how it must feel for them, because there's a huge platform for parents, right? And then caregivers. And then now we're seeing like actually autistic people coming out and reclaiming their own space and advocating for themselves. But there's also those siblings and other people in the home that are also affected by autism. And I just wanted to give them a little bit of voice there.
Yeah, I think all of those are really good points. I think having one child with autism, you don't see all those angles. When you have even one, if you have two children, you can see somewhat. You see the other child interacting with, the one child on the spectrum. But when you have more than one other sibling, you can see that, and they do hold that child at the same regard as this is how it's done, and I don't know, kids see it from a whole different level. Like, parents want to go out and do so much to protect the child on the spectrum, and
Yeah.
we don't even notice it, that we want to help and we want to protect, because that's what we do from the beginning of life with them. So then when it gets to things that are difficult for them at that point in life, we don't catch ourselves, but we're still doing that. But then their siblings, no, 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 this is what they need to do. This is, so Nita and myself, we both have 4 children, and our youngest ones both are the ones on the spectrum. And our older children know this is what you're supposed to do. This is what the therapist said, and this is how it goes. And they are the ones that are more stickler for this is how it's supposed to be done and consistency. But I think also, as you said, they are also the ones that will miss out, have the trips that are cut short, have the trips that can't happen. These are the families that can't go as a whole unit to certain things
Yeah.
because everything's not able to be done with a child on the spectrum, because maybe those sound levels or the light levels, maybe the crowd levels. So they really do live the life of the child with autism. It's people could say that they're not on the spectrum, so they don't live it. That's not true. They should, just like you said, they should have a voice in this, because they live a different life as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I tell people all the time, people are like, well, do you think it's fair? And I don't know if fair is like the word, but it's just is what it is, right? Like this is just our reality. But I also think it's so important to give them voice and validate their feelings and let them know, like, we have hard days as parents. So I could only imagine with kids with not having any control over the situation, not being able to verbalize or understand or have the experience to express how it can get overwhelming. But I also, too, in my book, didn't want to just stay with like the negative feelings, how hard and stressful, because sometimes it can be funny, right? Like it can be funny and it can be light, and there's certain quirks, and there's just, he fits perfectly in our family for who he is and what he has to offer. So I just wanted to show both sides of that.
Yeah, I think that's really neat. I think you bring out a really good point, because I never really thought of that. Where parents do have a lot of resources,
Yeah.
and you really don't look at the children, the siblings, but you really don't want to have resentment build up. You really want them to be able to say when they're frustrated or they're angry and they're feeling left out. And then at the same time, I mean, we've had those moments. We've even had those difficult moments, and I'm sure you have too, where you have those difficult moments and you feel like, oh my goodness, this was so hard. Oh my goodness, and the kids or the siblings are having a hard time. But then maybe a couple months down the road, it's a funny moment when you
Yeah.
recall it. So, I mean, I know you have to, I know you know what
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
talking about. So, but it's those things. And it's not only that he fits in your family fit with him. It's just something, because as a lot of our families do, we adapt. We
Mhm.
our children were born, they have autism, and that's what we do. We adjust, and that's what family units do. We adjust to them, and we just keep going, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. Um. So these are, so he is he the youngest in the family? Oh,
So he is, my oldest is 11. He's about to be 12. The older twins, you can say they're older, but they're only 11 months apart. So they're 7. And then my younger twins are 6. And
oh,
so he's number 4. But when you do a lineup, it really doesn't make that much difference because between 4 kids, there's really only 11 months. So he's the 4th one. He had his twin sister's younger than him by, a few minutes.
okay. So okay, got
So
it.
it's a similar dynamic to what you guys have. We have one more kid, but Drayden is one of the younger
Mhm.
ones in the bunch. But it's interesting because Drea is his twin, and she knows life nothing without Drayden and his autism. And that's a unique relationship because they're twins. Um, and then the older twins sort of remember, but not really because they were, not even a year old. But my oldest definitely was affected because he was like, 4 kids in 11 months. This is a whirlwind. What is all this, right? Like we went from being a family of 3 to a family of 7 with less than a year. And so that was an experience. But also, too, he was a main reason why we wrote the book because when I was out there looking for books about autism, 6 years ago when my son was diagnosed, there wasn't a lot of books. There's a handful of typical ones. Now we're seeing more and more come. But as far as like, that representation factor too, there just was not that out there. And there's a quote by Toni Morrison that says, if there's a book that you want to read and it's not written, write it. And so I was like, it just got on my list, and it's just been beautiful. I love that I'm able to showcase that diversity and representation, but also talk about abilities and disabilities as well, because I think that's something so important that we miss from a lot of children's books, is talking about that. And children are like sponges. They're so resilient, they're so forgiving, they have so many questions. And I think when you show kids and people or things or experience at a young age, they're so much willing to accept and ask questions and understand. And the older it gets, you get a little bit more jaded and you have a little bit more experiences under your belt, so you may form a different opinion. But from my experience, just that young tender age has been so transformational. And my kids' friends are even to the point now where they try to diagnose people with autism, right? Like they'll see someone at the store spinning or having a meltdown, like, I think he has autism. I'm like, oh, well, let's not put a label on them. But I'm glad they're sort of connecting the dots,
Mhm.
right? Like when I was 6, 7, or 8 years old, if I saw someone spinning or with the headphones or any type of stimming or anything like that, I wouldn't have no vocabulary to know what that was, right? It would
Mhm.
probably make me feel awkward and I would have looked away, just to be truthful. And I'm glad as parents we're able to change that narrative, and raise more inclusive, kinder adults. And that's really why I wrote the book, is to start, because even for parents, I think it's uncomfortable, right? Like if you don't live this life, you don't know where to start. Like you don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to, bring in, just in our generation, right? We were taught like, don't stare, don't look, right? Like, don't ask those questions. And those sort of bring a little bit of shame. And there's no shame in it. Ask those questions. People would rather explain their experience, talk about things rather than, you coming up with the wrong notion or you're too
Mhm.
scared to ask, because I think
Mhm.
that's where sometimes those ableist ideals come in.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the looking away almost feels like, in a way, like you're being shunned in a way, but you don't have a voice to explain. And I think your book is really good where you can explain it, and so when they see it they understand it, and they're not looking away like as to turn away from it. They're looking away because it's something they understand, and it's something that's just in the community, and they're looking away because it's normal. It's not something that is something that they're going to be attracted to, where, oh my goodness, what is going on? It's just something that they've learned about and they know that exists. And I think that your book is something that is hopefully going to be something more common that they come across in schools, and I mean even libraries. so like, you know how they have on Sesame Street, they have the character that has autism, and that's, you know, things like that are going to teach people this is autism, this is what autism looks like, and it's going to make it more normal and more acceptable, and people aren't going to feel like I have to look away because, you know, it's something they're
Yeah.
going to understand, and I think that's good. um so I don't know if I missed this or not. Did they help with the book?
So they did. They did. They had a lot of good ideas, and a lot of it was like their own experience or things they remembered. And it's so interesting. I don't know if you've ever done any type of therapy with someone, but I always say it's like marriage counseling, right? Where you go in and you talk about the same experience, and you're not allowed to speak, but you have to listen. And it's so weird hearing someone else's perspective of something that you saw totally different, like you were the exact same place experiencing. I'm like, really? You felt that? Or you right? Like, were we, you know what I'm saying? So it's interesting to see it because that's how the kids felt, right? And I have one page that I like to talk about. It's like a birthday party, right? Like my kids, because they're 11 months apart, they're all within that same age range. Their friends are typically group friends, especially right now where their personalities are still developing. And so the kids were behaved. They got the invitation, they were behaved, they did all their chores, they made sure they were ready, they told their friends they were going to be there. We got there to the birthday party, we were there for a little bit, and Drayden just couldn't take it, right? So as I remembered, I just sort of was like, hey guys, Drayden's sort of having a hard time, we should wrap it up. Tell your friend thanks for inviting you. I remember getting the candy bag, and we sort of left. And when they were putting it into the book, it was so much more detailed. Like, Mom, we were behaved. We did everything we had to do. Then Drayden kept flying around, and we couldn't get him to calm down. And everyone was staring at us. And we knew you were about to say we had to go. And only two of us got a candy bag. We didn't get to see our friend open their gift. And our friends were asking where we went. And we had tokens left over. So it was this whole other perspective of this idea that and it challenged me, right? It's definitely uncomfortable, but that's where you grow, is in those uncomfortable moments. And so I was like, whoa, like, really? That's how you guys remembered it? But it was good because it started making me aware of how autism is a ripple effect, right? Like our therapist likes to say, it's like a ripple effect, right? Like definitely affects Drayden. He's definitely the center of it, but it has waves, right? It affects me and my husband differently. It affects our marriage differently. It affects the siblings, grandparents, friends of family. It affects people around it, and not always bad. It's just the truth. It affects people. So yeah, they put in a lot of ideas, and it's good because it started off as like therapy for us, right? Like something, let's talk through these things, and it's easier when it's like an inanimate object in the book. So it's like, well, Mom, I think this character feels this. And I'm like, well, this character looks a lot like you. Are you sure it's the character or you? So it was just giving them that safe space, but they definitely added a lot of good substance and value to the book. So I'm grateful that they were vulnerable enough to share their experience. And I explained to them on the level they could understand how so many people have related to their experiences. And even when I get feedback, if it's age appropriate, I do share with them. Like, I want them to see, how so many other siblings understand what they're going through, have felt the same thing. Or parents, when they say, hey, I didn't know this, I'm going to read this with my kid and see if they felt this way, and let them know, like, look what you've done. You've impacted someone else, or you've been able to, get them help or have a conversation. So, yeah, they definitely help, but now they want no parts of the book whatsoever. They're over it. So,
So is this the first book that you've written, or
yes, it's actually my first book. It was on my bucket list to do, was write a book. Like I said, I thought it was going to be like a parent self-help book, but I'm so glad I wasn't married to like the final result or the end idea. I just knew a book was there, because I don't think this would have been created. And the feedback that I've gotten from like autistic individuals that see themselves beautifully represented, from siblings who, 10, 20 years ago, there wasn't a space for them, right? A platform. And people didn't talk about it, right? Like they didn't say that they had an autistic sibling at home because they didn't know anybody else who did. So it wasn't anything that they ever got to talk about or work through. And so it's just been beautiful to have people see themselves through the book and be able also show another representation of autism, because I think sometimes we get used to like a certain representation, and when it doesn't look like that, it's hard for us to identify like this is autism. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's another good thing. I think so. If you have kids at school and two different kids figure out that they both have a sibling on the spectrum, those two siblings may not look the same. They may not be going through the same things because autism is a very wide spectrum. So
Yeah.
it is good to show different families' journey. You know, they're not all the same, and that's the thing to like people often say, you know, you have somebody come up to you and say, oh, I know somebody with autism. Then you know somebody with autism, but you don't know my child with autism. You don't know
Right.
our journey. It varies greatly. So I think that sharing your journey is sharing your family's experience, and I think that that voice is important. Hold on one second. I wanted to let everybody know if you, we're going to do a giveaway, and we're going to give away a book. So if you want a copy of Come Meet Drayden, if you type in the word book, and I think it has to be with a lowercase. So if you type in the word book, you'll have a chance to win. At the end of the stream, you'll have a chance to win a copy of the book. So feel free to enter book. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so if you enter book just like that, you'll be entered into there and you can win a copy of the book. So feel free to do that. And so you had on your bucket list beforehand that you wanted to write a book beforehand, but then you chose this topic.
I
Is that
did. I always want, I believe, I love literature. I believe there's something so transcending about words and just the way you put them together. So I've always been a huge book person. So I always wanted to write a book. But just when we were sent home, just like everyone, he didn't get as many services. He wasn't at school. So I had also felt the effects a lot more because I work in logistics by trade. So I'm not home with Drayden. So a lot of his behaviors are things I never knew were at the point that they were at. His school and his care team, I'm so grateful and blessed to have such a tribe who really looks out and advocates and takes care of him the way that they do. And so a lot of things I didn't know that he required, so much of a literally a one-on-one or just different avenues. And so autism was definitely on my mind a lot during this time. And so it definitely was a subject that I was like, I really want to write about. I wanted to learn more. And as I was processing through it, I just wanted to share our journey. The kids didn't know anyone else who had an autistic sibling. I thought that was something that was unique to them. And like Toni Morrison said, like sometimes you just have to. And I remember going through and looking for children's books of autism and just not seeing them. And so all that sort of just came to head and came together in like the perfect storm. Although like I said, I really did think I was going to be like a self-help, this is what you look for, this is what you do type of thing. But it didn't turn out that way, and I'm glad.
um, do you think that there'll be multiple books?
I don't know. I get asked that a lot. One thing autism has taught me is not to look too far into the future. So I wouldn't be opposed to another book, but I don't know when. I don't know. I think this book still is doing a lot of work. I would love to see it maybe animated, and one of my other goals is how was it Amazon or Netflix do those like short story clips that they've been doing cartoons. I would love to see Come Meet Drayden doing something like that. Super interested in bringing it there because cartoons are another way to reach kids. That's something that I'm praying and manifesting out there on. But yeah, I love literature, so I can't say that there wouldn't be another book, maybe as Drayden grows or but I'm also careful too, right? And now that he's getting a little bit older, I want to leave him enough agency to like tell his own story. And so I don't know if it will be specifically about Drayden or maybe things that we've been through, or maybe I'll just keep it along the lines of what we're doing now. I thought of doing like a come meet Drayden and then add like at the beach because he really loves water, and talking about like how important water safety is. I'm a huge advocate for water safety, water safety, water safety. Our children love waters. They're drawn to bodies of water. And unfortunately, every summer there's entirely too many stories of unfortunate events around water and our children on the spectrum. So that's something I probably would do. But yeah, who knows? Who knows?
I think that's a really good one. That's almost along the lines of a safety social story, maybe. I think
Yeah.
that's a really neat one. And I think, yeah, I think that's a really good one. I think the series came to mind because it's a thing that's a story level and pictures, and it's illustrated, like animated
Yeah.
for where kids are attracted to it, and kids like, they want this one, and then they want the next one, and then they want the next one. What
Yeah.
happens next? So I think that's a cute thing. What does he think about the book?
Drayden?
Mhm.
He actually, so he is a wizard with words. That's something him and I bonded on from the very beginning. He could talk and, well, he could not talk, excuse me. He could read before he could even walk. And he had so many developmental delays. He wasn't walking, those, the eyesight, the whole, um, but he would read, right? Like he would read. So I knew his voice box worked, but I didn't know how to get that stuff that was in his brain like out, right? And that is something that we bonded on. So like for books, I would look at books because I worked, right? So when I got home, that was something we sort of did, and we would look at books together, and he would read books in his classroom. And I had video of, he started school here, they have programs. So he started school at like 27 months, and he knew every month on the calendar how to spell them by the time he was 3. And he was obsessed. And the teacher had to build like a fortress around the calendar, because he would take the calendar down at school and like play with the days of the week and read them. And so he doesn't really, he reads the book because but now, by now he's on the series. So he likes series like you were talking about. He loves any genre of books, but he absolutely knows every word to all the Pete the Cat books. So he loves books. So I guess because ours is in the series, he's like, Mom, I've read that one already. The big kids are like, we're too cool for this, and Mom, like, I don't want to hear anything else about Come Be Trading. So
Well, maybe one day he'll be writing the books then, writing.
yeah,
And not only
yes.
will he not memorize them, he will already have lived them.
Yes, yes, I would love that. I would love to do a book with him. He's definitely articulate enough to do that.
So sorry, you guys, I haven't been able to say hello to you guys. Cassandra and Kenyana, Melody. Hello, everybody. Let me
Hi.
make sure there aren't questions. Veronica says she's talking about siblings, and she was talking about her 9-year-old Eddie. I mean, sorry, her 9-year-old David is great with his little brother Eddie. Well, she says my 9-year-old, but it's David, is great with his little brother Eddie. My sister, her husband, and their kids are amazing with my son. Um, Lizzie Teresa talks about her working on a book also. Let me see. So anybody else who wants to enter the giveaway, as Nita typed right here, type the word book and you'll be entered into the giveaway. Hey,
Yeah.
Loranda. And yes, Veronica says, yes, water safety is very important with all children, but mostly our babies. Yes, I was just talking about that too. It seems like that's the first thing they go to, is the water.
Yeah.
Um, I guess, kids like to play in the water, right? We see a body of water. I want to go throw rocks in the water. I want to go play in the water too. So, but yeah, that's the thing, especially when they don't see it too often, or that's an outing that you do, you go feed the ducks or you go do this, that, they go outside and that's where they go. So unfortunately, but it is wise to, already have that water safety in place. I think too, a lot of our kids learn through social stories. Through Kids learn best through things, cartoons, songs, books, things that they're interested in. So that's the easiest way, the and repetitive, just like, you read the same story every night. That kid's
Mhm.
going to know the story. So just, ingraining it in them. So yeah, I think your idea is really great with that. I love the book. Anybody have any questions? Hey, Foxy. Hey, Danon. Somebody, let me see. Kim says, my son wants to do a book about earthquakes in space.
Good. If that's a special interest of his, I would say go for it. Nurture it, nurture that talent. Our babies, especially their special interest. Jaden's special interest is monster trucks and Thomas the Train. So any Thomas the Train from any, like you could show him like the older models. He knows all of the names, like all the pieces names. That's one of his special interests. And also monster trucks. So he knows all the drivers, the monster trucks, all of that. So anything that's a special interest, I say foster it. Meet them where they're at. I think we do a lot of therapies to bring them to us and where we live and where we're at. And I think anytime we can connect with them in their world is also special too. And I think that they deserve that.
Yeah, I agree. So does him and his twin, do they, does she, is she kind of protective over him?
She is. So my oldest is completely protective over him, right? And it's so funny because he's such a like a no nonsense. Um, have you seen Bar Rescue?
No.
Okay. Well, he's a very like over the top um Sagittarius, hot temper, quick witted mouth type person. But when it comes to Drayden, he just like melts. So he's very protective. His twin is more in tune with him, right? And so she's more like, he doesn't have to say anything. She's more like in tune of what he needs, what he wants. Is he okay? Grabbing his hand when we're in a big crowd, sitting next to him. So she's really in tune with him as like that connection. The
Mhm.
protection, I would say, is definitely his older brother. And then my oldest daughter, she's the one who holds him accountable, but she also does not play about him. So it's like she's quick to grab him up and pull him in the house and slam the door. It's like, stop going outside. But the moment, someone says something to him, she's like, he's autistic. So she's she's definitely holds some equal parts accountable. So they all play a unique role with him, and it's so interesting to
Mhm.
watch. And then my oldest son, they're like oil and water, right? And Drayden realizes that he can pick with him. And so he has to, it's neat because they have more of like a sibling relationship, right? Like Darius is like Drayden's like his annoying little brother, right? He picks with him and he takes stuff from him and chases him around the house. So it's funny that he still has that sibling connection even through the autism. It's like, okay, he's still being an annoying brother through all that. So they all have a different connection and role that they play with each other. So it's very beautiful to watch.
That's what I was going to say. The dynamic is all
Hmm.
individual, right? So the one brother that is like no nonsense but very protective of him is not the oldest one.
That no, that's not the oldest twin. The oldest twin is the one. He is a super kind sweetheart, and he wouldn't hurt a fly. And Drayden seems to use that to his advantage. And Drayden tends to pick on him, so he takes stuff. He takes the remote control. He chases him. He pours water on his head in the bathtub, and they sort of bicker back and forth. And so, although I get stressed and annoyed, it's still really nice to see that sibling bond because the doctors were like, well, they probably won't have that, and Drayden won't be able to understand. And Drayden fully understands and uses that to his advantage. But um, yeah, they all have like these unique roles that they play in each other's lives, and it's so beautifully orchestrated and done. But yeah, typically people think his twin's very protective, but I think I see she's a lot more in tune than protective. So she's very proactive. Like if she knows like we're going to go see fireworks, she was like, well, mom, do you think he'll like it? Do you think this? Do you, is he okay? Did we grab his this? Mom, where's his charger? His iPad's on 15%. So she's very in
Mhm.
tune to knowing him, and she's almost like a little mom.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really neat. How you said too, how the doctor said that he wouldn't have the relationships like that.
Yeah, because they
It's
said
go ahead.
no. I was just saying the doctor said, "Oh, well, they don't understand social cues, or they don't have that connection." And he definitely very much has that little brother. He knows how to get under his brother's skin, and he knows where he fits in. So
Yeah, I think that kind of, I wasn't sure either if Emily would have that, and sometimes it looked like it was one sided. But since my kids are grown, the other three kids are grown, adults, gone. I see it. They come back and she knows what each one she wants them to do. She knows what conversation, what TV show, or what they talk about when that sibling comes back. She knows what that one might bring her or what she might ask for. But they each have their own dynamic, and I think that that's the connection that they have. But when you think about that with everybody else, that's the same thing. You have a certain connection with a certain sibling,
hmm
right? And it's not the
yeah.
same with every sibling. So, and just like we read our children who have autism, we may not, especially for the ones that are nonverbal, we may not speak words back and forth to understand each other, but we will understand them one way or another. And that's the same thing with, they will have that's still a relationship. We will have a relationship. They still will have relationships in the family. So I think that that's really neat. How the dynamic is like, how you can see how you explain that dynamic, and I'm sure in the book you can see that. But I don't know about everybody else, but my interest is like, I'm looking for a series. But
I
yeah,
do.
that's
I
just me. Go ahead.
No, I share a lot on Instagram and more on my stories because I try to find a balance of not sharing too much. But their personality, and it's funny because once people follow me for so long, they predict. So sometimes I'll post something that happened. I'm like, who do you think did it? And people have like everyone's name spot on because their personalities and like who they are and how they contribute to the family is so unique. And it's so funny because like Drayden had like a marker and he colored on the floor, right? And DeAndre's first, my oldest first thing was like, let's hide the marker so like mom and dad won't fuss at him for it, right? That protecting of him. His twin was like, she's trying to make sure he didn't have any of the marker on him. My older daughter that holds him equal amount of accountable and give him grace was like trying to clean it up. And then the brother that he annoys, Drayden, was chasing him around, trying to, color on him with the marker. So it was just funny to watch this dynamic, But when I think about it, like you said, it's just like any other sibling dynamic. Sometimes we go to a certain parent or sibling or family member because they can give us something and provide a feeling or comfort that, someone else can't. And so I'm always reassured
Mhm.
because my oldest, my oldest daughter and my oldest son always fight, like, oh, he's coming to stay with me when I move out. My oldest he has this idea he's moving to California. So he's like, I'm taking him to California. So it's really interesting for me because it's nice to hear them want him, right? Like they don't feel like
Mhm.
he's a burden. And I think that's because they're in therapy themselves. And I think that we've made it a safe spot, right, for everyone. So they don't feel burdened or isolated. But yeah, it's very interesting to watch, but you'll have to it's definitely interesting to watch all of their dynamic together.
Yeah, I think that that's really neat because this is essentially a platform for their voice to have everything always
Mhm.
out there. Whether it's here, but you put it here, and that shows them that they can say things that they whether everything might not be in the book, obviously, but it shows them that they can voice things. They can voice things to you. They will know the difference between voicing things outside and voicing things in the house, but they know that they can voice things that, and they're not going to have pent up, emotions. So I think that that's important. And I think that that's really good because you've opened that door that, hey, you guys can share your experience. You guys should share your experiences, whether it's with me, whether you have to write it down and let it go, one way or another, share, let it out. And I think that that's good because you've let them open up, and I like that. So Veronica says, yes, the bar rescue guy does not play. That's a good example.
Yes, okay, you got my
I'm gonna
reference.
check that out.
Yes. He's just yes, he's Veronica, he is exactly his personality, so it's very interesting to watch. He has a very fiery personality.
And she She also says, "Oh my God, Emily. I mean, sorry, Eddie is the same with Thomas the Train." I thought that, Veronica, but I wasn't sure. He can tell who they are by their faces, and to me, a lot of their faces look the same. LOL.
Yes.
Foxy says, which is Roxy. Roxy says, "Oh my gosh, Raymond and Jaylene would love this book. I think my older kids would too." I think so too. I think that no matter how old the kid is, I think a sibling can relate to this, and that's
Mhm.
what makes it so attractive or so magnetic for them because it's their experience. And just like you said, Toni Morrison said, if you can't find the book, write the book.
Mhm.
And there's not very many books from this perspective, as you've said. I mean, we know it, but I know that you said you've looked for it, so you did
Yeah.
more than we've done. You can, like, when you search for, I know most of you guys here can say it. You search for autism and you see, just like you said, mostly self-help books. You'll see autobiographies, but you come across them sometimes, but you rarely see a book like this, especially from a sibling's perspective. You might
Yeah.
see a youth book, but not like this perspective. So I really like this. I love that you went out and you wrote the book you were looking for. So maybe you've inspired somebody else to do the same thing.
Yes.
That's good. Maybe somebody else will be sharing their story. Lorianda, remember, it'll still be posted up for you to catch it. The replay, exactly. My David is like that. If kids try to play with Eddie and then call him weird because he doesn't talk or play like them, David comes in with quickness to school them and advocate for his brother and tells them he's autistic, how he's just like them, but his brain works differently. You go, David.
Yes.
And Roxy says, yes, it's beautiful. I see the same at my home with my two oldest being protective over my two youngest, which are both autistic. I know they will be there for them when I'm not here anymore. That's it's nice to have older ones, whether they're older or younger, because the younger will eventually be adults as well. But it is
Mhm.
nice to know that when they have siblings, that they've grown up with them and that they are willing to take them on when
Yeah.
we're no longer able to care for them. Uh, Veronica says, I have a similar story to that. Not too long ago, Eddie painted himself with my acrylic paints, and my oldest rushed him to the bathroom and used a pack of wipes to clean him from head to toe before I could see the damage.
That's funny.
Did you post this, Veronica? I can't remember if that's the thing that you posted pictures of. So does anyone have any questions, or anybody else want to post book to be able to win a copy of the book? And Dana, if you had anything else you wanted to share.
No, I just wanted to say, I think that it's a beautiful book, not just because it's mine, but it hits on so many elements. When we talk about like ability, when we talk about diversity and race, and just all of them in one, I think, with 2020 and people being sent home and everything that was going on, the climate, I think a lot of parents did the work, and even teachers and advocates, and they just was like, hey, we see a need to, make our kids' bookshelves a little bit more colorful. And so I think that this has just really been the time to do that and, self evaluate, right? And I think that it's important to show the huge spectrum of autism and what it can look like. And in my book, it was important for me not to use the word autism. So nowhere in the book says autism, because for me, I know autism can sometimes be an invisible disease. And so I wanted to be very careful not to use the word autism, but I wanted people to see all of the actions together and understand that it's not just one or two things, but it's a broader, wider spectrum that makes this about autism. Um, and so I was very intentional not to use the word autism, not to use the word stemming, but use terminology and language that kids would understand at a level that they could understand it. And as they're able to put together things, that they're able to see behaviors, the spinning, the splashing, the repetitiveness, the noise, the eye contact, the special attention and care to toys, they're able to become little advocates themselves. And that's really why I wrote this book, as much as I advocate for my son, and I want him to advocate for himself, I also wanted my kids to learn to advocate, right? Because there's going to be a day, as much as I would love to outlive Drayden, if that's not the possibility, there's going to be someone that needs to be in those footsteps. And I want to teach them now how powerful sharing their story and their voice is. And so that is really what this is about. It's like teaching kids to self advocate for themselves and their own experience, and just showing up. So that was really important to me in writing this book. And I can't wait to see what people think, and hear feedback. And I'm always open if people have questions, if they want to reach out to me via social media, and, send me a message. I'm definitely open for that.
Okay. Do you have a do you want it do you have any social media that you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, so my Facebook is just my name, Dana Young-Askew. And then my Instagram is Come Meet Drayden. So it's just the title of the book, Come Meet Drayden, no spaces, no dots, just Come Meet Drayden. That's my Instagram handle. So yeah, I'm free and open up there. If you have any questions, I've seen a couple people talking about maybe wanting to start books or looking for the book or having questions. Feel free. Know that it's a safe space, no judgment. We've all been there, and we need community and have to continue to, help each other out and be there for each other.
And where can your book be found?
My book is available on Amazon. It's also available at Barnes and Noble. And then my site is actually under construction and will not be ready until tomorrow morning. But I am going to share a code with you guys. I was just going to use AAU, and that will make the books $13 for the viewers. I'll keep it open for about a week to give people time to get payday or whatever they have to do. But AAU will be the code you put in, and it'll make the book $13 for the paperback copy of the Come Meet Drayden on my website. My website will be up at midnight. They're fixing it now. So,
Okay, so oh, go ahead.
nope, I was going to just say code AAU gets you the copy of the book Come Meet Drayden for $13. And my website is, oh, do I have somewhere I can type it? or should I just say it?
Oh, I think Anita's doing all this in the comments.
Okay, perfect.
Got you covered. She's doing all this stuff.
Yes, thank you.
And I think that was, yeah, I thought I had something else, but so if anybody has any more questions, that's where you can reach out to her. Anybody else want to put one last chance to put book in to win a book, copy of the book?
Yay.
And let me go over here and let me do this. Oh, let me see. Okay, so maybe 20 more seconds. Anybody want to type book? And any more questions? Yeah, I agree, Roxy. Roxy says this book should be at every school library. I was wondering that. I was wondering how many libraries accept donations. I know you can put books on lists that you want the library to buy, and they will, I don't know how they choose which books will be approved or not, but I do know that you can request certain books to be bought. But I wonder if you can donate books to certain libraries.
Yeah, it's been more confusing to get them at the school libraries are really good. Typically, I just call them and they're like, okay, well, we'll order a couple and put it in the school library. But the public library has been very hard. And that's really where I wanted the book because in case people didn't have access or someone just saw the book. But it's definitely a thing where you have to go in and just see how each district, each state, each province sort of runs their library. Some people accept donations, some people don't. Some people have to read the book, get voted on. Some people it has to be like, hit a certain criteria. So
yeah, that's what I was wondering because I thought different places would probably do it differently. I agree with Roxy with that. Definitely every library. I think every class really should be going through this. It's a good book that should be going through like a good book that the class should do at the beginning of a school year. To know what, there's different, how they have different, you read about different cultures or you read about different families doing different things. In this book too, you have, like you said, you have different race, you have autism and and I was going to say that when you were talking about that, you have autism doesn't stop anywhere. It does not. It touches everybody, and that's what autism is all about. It doesn't matter who you are; it will touch every race. So I think that color and autism, I think, is being brought out more. Not to lessen anything, but I think that Autism in Us shows that the whole world, autism is autism, and it reaches every end of this earth. Where's the book available? We spoke about that. I wish Ralph's siblings would interact with him.
Keep trying, Pam, and I'll definitely, if you want to connect, we can talk more.
And so Pam, I don't know. So Pam, hopefully you're still here and you heard that. I will push for here and Roxy says she'll push here in Albertville, Alabama. And
keep me updated. I would love to see pictures and get information. It's nice to have that type of feedback.
And Veronica says, that's right. Autism does not discriminate. Nope, it does not. And we have we have members and we have parents from all over. If you look at our stats, you can look at the insights. We have so many different countries of parents. It's so far reaching. But it just shows it's global. But it's so nice to see the reach of Autism in Us. So let's go ahead and do the draw for 12 entries.
Yay.
Let's see. I don't know if Nita is still here. Let me go ahead and get this going. Oh, Autism and Us is on there. Oh, okay. Well, we have. I don't know if Nita is still here.
Yeah.
So Nita must have. Okay, so yeah, she's still here. Okay, so I guess I just run it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said we're disqualified. Okay. Oh, wait, Nita, how does this go? Oh, okay, I see it. Okay, I got it. Okay, here we go again. We got disqualified. And thank you so much for coming here, sharing your book, sharing your story.
Yes.
It's always so nice. Everybody, I'm sure, can agree. It's always so nice to meet new families, to learn your journey. It's so nice. I love this.
Yes. Congrats, Roxy.
Roxy, okay, good. Congratulations, Roxy. And just like you said, your kids would love this. Good. Hope
Perfect.
you enjoy it. And you know what to do. Contact Nita or myself, and we will get that book out to you. You're welcome, Roxy. Okay, so again, thanks so much, Dana. And
Thank you.
remember, you're welcome. And remember, if anyone else has any questions, be sure to reach out to Dana with the questions. Be sure to check out the book. And yeah, thank you for joining us, everybody. And have a good night, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.